In this episode, I'll be installing a low temperature thermostat on my Mazda Rx8. So if you're new to this channel, I post videos 2 times per week covering Rx8 tips, maintenance videos, awesome mods, and also my drift build. So if you're not a subscriber yet, definitely consider subscribing. The Mishimoto low temperature thermostat is designed to increase cooling of the engine by opening sooner than the regular thermostat. If you guys are interested, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get one. First off, we gotta jack up the front of the car, put it on jack stands, and remove the passenger side wheel. Next, grab a pan and slide it under the car right below the radiator drain plug. Now slowly unscrew the bolt with a screwdriver and then remove it with your hand. Release the cap on the coolant reservoir to increase the flow of coolant. When there is no more coolant dripping out, put back the bolt and tighten it. But don't exaggerate, cause you can break it. Take out the pan and pour the coolant in a 5-liter plastic bottle so that you can either reuse it if you recently replace it or use it as a measurement for new coolant. Next, put the cap back on the reservoir. Now it's time to remove your strut bar. If you have the original, just remove the 2 nuts holding the bar. If you have a strut bar that's similar to mine or identical, then just remove the middle bar, cause otherwise your suspension will collapse. Next up, unplug your battery and take it out. Use a 10mm socket to remove the bolt holding the center of the box. Now push in the bottom part of the cover and pull the upper part to get it loose. When done, take it out. At the bottom left side, you'll see 2 more screws holding the plastic. Simply remove them with a 10mm wrench, and when done, take the plastic out of the engine bay. Remove the 3 bolts holding down your air pump. Unplug the connector, take the whole thing out and put it on the side. Even though I've just removed the battery and the air pump, you'll still see them later on. Please ignore it, as I did not think of removing them at the time. But you remove them at the beginning as shown in this video, because it will make the whole process 100 times more easy and fast. Next up, remove the small tube on the air valve. Take your pliers, squeeze the clamp together and pull it back to release the tube. Next, you're gonna need a hose pick, and if you don't have one, I'll post a link to it in the description. Insert a pick inside the head of the tube and slide it around to get it loose. Now pull out the hose using your pick and your hand. Do the same for the other part of the tube. When done, take the whole tube out and put it on the side. Next, remove the bolt holding the bracket under the valve. So grab your 10mm socket, get it loose and take it out. Now there are 2 ways of removing the air pump valve. The easiest one, that's gonna make the whole process fast and easy, is to follow the pipe to the manifold until you can see 2 10mm nuts holding it in place. Grab your ratchet with extension and start releasing them. When done, take out the tube and move the valve on the side. But if your nuts are rust welded and rounded like mine, the one on the car obviously, without having the correct tools, you'll have to go with method number 2, which is a bit longer and harder. First up, we gotta remove the 2 10mm bolts holding the valve in place. You can remove the first one using a 10mm wrench, or if it's too hard, you can mount a 10mm socket on your long extension and another extension on your existing extension and put everything on your ratchet and remove the bolt from under the car. In this case, point a light at the bolt so you'll see it better when under the car. Remove the back bolt by using your 10mm wrench. When done, carefully take out the 2 bolts and put them on the side. Now you can finally remove the air pump valve. After that, you can also remove the metal seal. Now use your pick to lift the plastic clamp in the middle and then lift the plastic on the side to open it. Next, it's time to remove the 2 hoses attached to the thermostat cover. Put your pan under the hoses in case some liquid comes out, but it shouldn't. Now release the clamp and pull it back to free the hose. Use your pick to get it unstuck and pull it out using both of your hands. Now do the same for the small hose on the other side. Next up, remove the bolt from the back of the cover by using your 12mm socket. When done, carefully take it out using both hands. Now it's time to remove the upper belt on the alternator. Firstly, release the 3 bolts on the water pump pulley so you can later take them out with your hand. To prevent the pulley from turning, you can use your screwdriver and just put it under the bolt so that it prevents the wheel from spinning. Using your 14mm socket, release the bolt on the right side of the alternator. But don't take it out, it's enough that it's loose so you can move the alternator. Next, use your 12mm socket to release the bolt on the side of the tension bracket, but don't take it out yet. Now release the long bolt on the top of the alternator, and as you're doing so, you'll see that the belt will gradually become looser. Now you can give the alternator a little push down so the belt gets a little bit more loose, and then you can finally take it off the pulleys. Next, remove the 3 bolts on the water pump pulley with your hand and then take out the pulley. Just like that. Unscrew and take out the long bolt on top and the ones on the side. Now it's time to remove the 2 bolts at the bottom of the bracket, so release them with your ratchet and take them out. After that, remove the last bolt on the top of the bracket, and after that you can finally take it out. Now if you remove the metal tube, you can just take off the cover, but if you couldn't, then the second method is to pull the tube and the metal bracket back with one hand and then quickly with the other turn the cover to your right and take it out. There we go, it was a struggle, but it got done. And now we can finally see my old thermostat. To get it out, take your pliers, gently turn it to get it loose, and then take it out with your hands. There we go. If we compare it with the new Mishimoto one, we can see that they are visually almost identical. And if we take a look at the top, we can see that the old one opened up at 82 degrees Celsius, and the new one opens up at 76 degrees, which is better. To put the thermostat in, it must be facing the same way as the old one, so the short part on the top and the spring at the bottom. So now carefully put it in. And before I put back the cover, I'm gonna clean it a little bit so the tubes won't get stuck the next time I want to take them off. And here we go, nice and clean. Now to put it in, slide the right side on the bolt and with one hand pull back the metal tube like before, and with the other carefully put back the cover into place. If you have no metal pipe to pull, just position the cover into place. Now if you had old worn out nuts, I suggest you replace them with some new ones so you won't have trouble in the future. Since some people reported missing nuts on the black brackets, I like to put some thread locker so vibrations don't get them loose. After that, put everything back in a reverse order. When done, take a small funnel, put it in your coolant reservoir and pour in the coolant you took out before. If it was old, then measure the quantity you took out and pour in some new one. When it won't suck any more coolant, start your car and blast your heat at full power. After that, the reservoir will empty a bit, so you can pour in the rest of your coolant and maybe add a little bit more. When there are no air bubbles coming out, we can put the cap on and leave the car to work for 20 minutes. Or you can just take it for a short ride. In the meanwhile, check that there are no leaks under the car and the temperature gauge doesn't spike up. After 20 minutes, we can see that the car has an optimal working temperature and no leaks were found. So the job here is done. All the products and tools I've mentioned will be linked in the description, so make sure you check them out. And as always, if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next Drift Build episode.